Good night, everyone. Tonight, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Simon Jasper. I'm here to give you some news, some history. Um, African American history, AP Advanced Placement, African American Study course rejected by DeSantis. Their stated is like educational value. Say it don't have no value to it. And they wants to reject, deny, AP uh, course. That for anybody who wants to study on Black history. Sabine Crump, the attorney, he announced a lawsuit against DeSantis. Because they want to edit the history. Due to their committed lack of educational value, it would be attack against the African American. Because that's our history, our Black culture. So we don't want that to be added. We don't want it to be pulled out because that is our Black history from back in our ancestors. So in the process, in getting AP study course together, non-profit organization that developed the course is called the College Board. you know, they stated they spent about decades, collecting information and compiling this coursework and having said if they plan to make any revision to the coursework in order to get it. So in the process when the AP came out, for to have this program in all the schools, for Black cultures, Black African Americans to study on it, and not only just African American, anyone who wanted to study on Black history. So in the process of getting that together, they said it was decades of them trying to get information about it, and they feel like it was useless. But we feel like our Black culture is very important. That our young people need to get knowledge on it. They need to be taught on it. So they claim they they did their research saying there was no educational value. So they just stopped. They feel like, it's no use for it, but they reject AP course, for to be in a school and stop their research on trying to get information on Black history. So we are proudly, required the teaching of AP, advanced placement, African American history. Florida State, they stated they would not allow AP course, on African American studies to be offered in high school. You know, Republican Governor, Ron DeSantis, he claimed the course violates state laws. Last year, Florida had passed, a so-called "Don't Say Gay" law. So he passed on that. So since they went through that, he figured he gonna go through another phase and see if he gonna pass or add in Black history. So now since Florida passed on that law, don't say gay. We see they won on that case. So now we see they wants to pass in on adding Black history. You know, um, I request that African American, you know, Black history, remain and do not be added. So that's our history. That's all we have is our history and the background of our ancestors back in the day. So Black history, it's about appreciating, and recognize, the key African American achievement. Black history is a celebration, of how we came in a season to honor, our ancestors in a time of reflection on the work still to be done. You know, it still have work to be done. Because Martin Luther King had worked so hard for civil rights. But today we are still fighting for our civil rights. We still fighting for rights. But we thank Martin Luther King that opened doors for us, and we have to continue on fighting on for our rights. So Black history, celebrate of our ancestors, and they're excellent. motivation, to always strive for the greatness, that lies beyond our current circumstances. Cause this is, we still have the circumstances. You know, we still have circumstances. We still fighting for so many things that Martin Luther King fight for. Now he opened doors on certain stuff, and we still fighting for our rights for a whole lot of things. So a constant reminder, that without Black history, there will be no history. So if you move Black history, there will be no history. We won't have nothing to celebrate on February month. You know, so Black history is still important. And should be taught to all students. And not just African American students, but to all who wants to learn and be taught on African American ancestors, Black culture. You know, just like students are taught math, science, and English in school, and that's very important. Black American history are very important also in school. So we need Black history to be placed right back in the school. Because you have a lot of kids that's teenager and grown and still don't have the knowledge of their Black culture. So it have to be taught with the children while they're young in school. Because I teach on last week to put the Bibles back in the school. This is a new generation. And and things is all out of whack right now. So we need the Bible back in the school. We need the Black history back in the school, because you have a lot of African Americans still don't have the knowledge of Black culture. They still don't have the knowledge of, and the stuff that we experience now. Our ancestors experienced that back then. So Black history, which focus on contributed that African American made in the past, is also important and should be taught in the school now. You know, they need to know. 'Cause at one point in time, we couldn't sit in front of the bus. Our young people need to know. You know, at one point in time, we could not vote. At one point in time, we couldn't drink the water fountain. We had to have separate water fountains. So our young people need to know the Black history. They need to know our ancestor was in slavery. Slavery had just ended in the 60s. You know, we came along. So they were still in slavery while we was here, and it had just ended in the 60s. And so when the slavery ended, they still feel like they was in bondage. Because they still didn't have civil rights to do anything. At that time, that's when they broke away of being slavery, but they still feel like they was in bondage. Could not sit on the front of the bus. They still could not vote. It was a whole lot of stuff they could not do right after slavery. So our young people need to know they need to know their Black culture. All African American studies should be educated on Black history. So there are reasons why Black history is important and should still be taught in the United States schools. You know what we experience now, is only rehearsing life past. What they experienced back then. We still experience a lot of stuff. A lot of work still needs to be done. So African American, uh, our young people, they need to be taught that our ancestor was in slavery. You know, two, our young people need to know racism. They deal with that. And we still dealing with that today. That's why I say it's a lot of work still needs to be done. We still fighting for rights. So three, African American, our young people need to know about African American, could not vote. Four, our young people in school need to know that they could not sit in front of the bus. It's many other reasons. Our young people needs to know. So our young Black children need knowledge on our Black culture in the school. Teaching Black history in schools helps students who have little interact with African Americans to develop an accurate understanding of African American in the United States. You know, because you got a lot of grown um, African Americans still don't know the background of our black culture. You know, because it has to be taught young, at a young age in school. You know, if they don't get taught in the school, all they're gonna see is Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. All they're gonna see is that on TV, in the movie, and they're gonna see that once a year. You know, and then they're trying to edit our history and try to rewrite it all. You know, we're gonna keep on fighting to keep our black history, keeping it alive. You know, so our young black children need to know, after Martin Luther King, you know, he fought a good fight, but we still fighting for civil rights. You know, he opened doors for us, and we continue on, keep on fighting. You know, so we have so much stuff that's still going on right now. You know, and we still trying to break the chains on a whole lot of stuff. You know, for civil rights, for African Americans to have civil rights. You know, so African American, it is good to learn about culture, black culture, differences divided in the world. You know, we are divided in this world right now. You know, so they have differences. That just like in the Bible. You know, I'm a prophet, so I'm always gonna go back to the Bible. You know, the Israelite, all of them was mixed. You know, then they were separate. You know what I'm gonna be putting out today. You gonna have the Egyptian on this side. You gonna have the Israelite on this side. You know, and that's how it was back then, and that's how it still are today. You know, we are divided. You know, and we supposed to be together. You know, that's why I say our black culture is not just for us to study, for anybody who wants to study. You know, so just like some siblings, you know, might have differences. All might come from the same mother, but you might have different daddy, but y'all come in the same household. All belongs for the same household. You know, so we all different, but we all part of a one nation. You know, so black history, you know, is good for all students. You know, not just African American students. You know, it helped in racism. So you could get other races to read and learn on it. You could kind of break that racism because we all divided right now. You know, and we're supposed to be together. You know, is this world is just so divided. It's just so separated. You know, you need to know how we broke the chain of slavery. You know, and that we had great leaders like Martin Luther King, you know, Malcolm X, you know, we had a lot of good leaders back then that helped open doors for us. You know, because after slavery ended, they still had to break down doors. You know, they had to break down doors to open the doors up for us when we came along. You know, so time we came along, slavery had just ended in the 60s. You know, so today, you know, we are still fighting for civil rights. You know, all the race, you know, who want to learn, any race who wants to learn about black history can't learn. You know, that's why we came out with AP, Advanced Placement. You know, African American study course that will be good to have in school. You know, but since he wants to reject and deny AP studies, you know, we celebrate Black History, you know, every year, every year, you know, for the whole month of February. You know, you have it all on TV for the whole month. You know, that's the only time you're able to see it unless you go, like on the news, to have a black person have a store. You know, he just said number history book. You know, African American history. You know, so we can, you can buy the books. You know, you can also buy, the CDs. I mean the DVDs and watch it. You know, but we still need the AP to be in the schools. to teach. They pull it out the school. We need AP study course to be in the school, because the young people that's in school need to be taught on Black history. So I request that our Black history do not be added, you know, but remain for Black history in school, to remain on TV, remain in the books, to move it. We need our Black history to remain. So I request that AP Advanced Placement African American Study Course remain for all race to learn about our black culture. Because the young people these days still don't know anything about the black culture. And then that's why they growing up. So a lot of kids going through racism, going through a lot. You can't do this, because of this and that. And they don't understand. And nobody not teaching them what we went through back then. They don't know why they're getting treated a certain way. They need to know about their black history. You, you know. So we need AP to remain. You know, it needs to remain because we need some kind of black history, in the school. So and I request for black history to not be added, to remain. So we have AP, Advanced Placement, and we have Black History, both to remain. So we talk about Black History. They denied the AP program. They denied it. They don't want it in the school. They don't want they don't want it to be taught. They figure when they did a decade of research and trying to find on, look on Black history, they feel like it was wasn't value enough to be put in the school, but it is. Black history is very important. You know, uh, very important for us to know what they went through back in the day. You know, and so they just like the Israelite. When the Israelite got free, got released, they still felt like they was in bondage because they was in slavery for so long.